Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're starting a new series I call The Case Files. In this series, we're going to look at every NFL team and see if they're frauds, well-rated, or underrated. I can't speak. Today we will take a deep dive into my Dolphins and determine if they are worth the 9 wins they're projected or are they not worth the hype. So anyway, let's get into the video. Starting with the most important and questionable position, the quarterback. Tua is going into a make or break year this year. I think we know that. But let's determine if he's really as bad as the fans say. So let's get into the facts. Tua threw for a little over 2,600 yards, which ranked 27th among the NFL. 16 touchdowns, which tied for 23rd in the league, and a 49.7 passer rating, which ranked 18th among QBs while missing 5 games last season. Those stats are not great. You don't have to tell me, but it was an improvement definitely from his rookie season. I think. Well, it's obvious. I know the Dolphins need for the Dolphins to exceed expectations. Tua's gonna have to up his game, and it's not unrealistic to expect him to be top 15 in all those categories I just listed. The Dolphins fan, though, with the injury problem starting to develop, kind of lack of production, I don't expect those results out of him, and for him to disappoint again and most likely lose his starting job at the end of the season due to a stacked quarterback rookie class next season. The next unit we're going to take a deep dive into is one the Dolphins attempted to improve, the running back. As a Dolphins fan, I'm not too excited about the Mostert signing due to injury problems, with him only playing 9 games in the last 2 years. That's an average of 4.5 games per year. That is not good. But I do like the signing of Chase Edmonds. He's played 12 games, which is pretty decent for a running back. And although he was the backup to James Conner, he still had over 500 rushing yards, and he's only making $7 million a year. So we can hopefully see a guy who will improve a lackluster run game, and for a cheap price. The next group is what most people are excited about, the wide receiver. Let's get the obvious out the way. Tyreek Hill's an elite receiver and will be a threat for all defenses. Whether the Dolphins can throw it deep or not, he's a threat. And I'm excited to see how Mike McDaniels uses him in his offense. Next player on this loaded wide receiver core is Jalen Waters, coming off a great rookie year. You're breaking the rookie reception record and having over 1,000 yards receiving, and you'll only get better as the years progress. Without the threat of being guarded by #1 corners, he'll be a fantasy sleeper pick. Sort of. Depends on how late your draft. Depends on how much your league values him. Up next is Cedric Wilson, another new face of the Dolphins defense, and an underrated one. Last season, while being the #4 wide receiver on Dallas, he still had 500. He still had over 500 yards. And when he had to start like that 49ers game, he was a really solid option. And he's now on a better wide receiving core. I don't want to hear it. This receiving core is better than what the Cowboys had last year. He won't be expected to be #1, which is what a lot of underrated receivers end up doing. A lot of teams end up paying these receivers, like Christian Kirk, for example, and pay them to be their #1 guy and put them in a position where they're forced to be a #1 guy when they're just not a #1 guy. Cedric Wilson has been put as a #3 guy, which I think is perfect for him, because that's where he was in Dallas, and I think, yeah. And the final player isn't technically a receiver, but he played 85% of snaps as a receiver, and that's Mike Gosicki. All I'm going to say, he's getting better. He gets better every year that he plays, and the stats show it. And I think he only continues to get better as these years progress. Another position that the Dolphins really struggled with last year was O-line. Yeah, part of the reason Tua struggled. The good thing is that the Dolphins did their best to try to improve this unit. Obviously, obviously, O-linemen would rather go to the Bengals, who are coming off a Super Bowl. Fraudulent team, and you'll see a video on them eventually. Let's start with the new addition, Teron Armstead, who was ranked the #1 free agent last season, and they got him for a cheaper price than what he was projected to be worth. And Connor Williams, who only allowed 1 sack last season. These two guys are going to be are now responsible for blocking for Tua, and they're going to be the best guys on the line. They have to play well, unlike they do in my Madden franchise, where Teron Armstead might just be one of the worst O-linemen I've ever seen. Anyway, I'm not complaining about these two great additions. They were much cheaper than what they should have been. And when you look at the familiar faces, I don't like them. The only player that I think has any type of potential is Robert Hunt, who played every game and started every game this season, and only allowed 2 sacks. So I think we will see improvement out of Robert Hunt, but I still think the unit's gonna still be weak, and I still think Tua is gonna get hit a lot because the interior and one of the edges is still very questionable. Okay, I don't think I have to say that the Dolphins secondary is good. I think it's obvious. Xavier Howard's a 2-time interception leader, 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. Those are just all stats and facts. Okay, Byron Jones is another solid number two option who can lock up most number 2 receivers. I'm not that concerned. He'll allow a big play every now and again, but he's not like a liability on the team. As well as Javon Holland, who had a great rookie season. If Micah Parsons didn't exist, he would have been a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, but nobody was because Micah Parsons is a unanimous winner. He deserved it. And Brandon Jones showed that he had potential to be an above-average safety. Him and Javon Holland can make a great safety group and maybe a top 10 safety duo in the league. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about the obvious good stuff about the Dolphins' defense. Let's get into the more questionable things. The best way to describe the Dolphins' D-line is average. That's all I have to say. Ogba is good, not a great DN. I'm glad he got paid, but he's good, not great. Serviceable starter at best. Adam Butler is exactly the same way. Not great, but underrated and solid. Once again, another solid starter who can clog up the interior. But once again, nothing elite. The only player that I have any excitedness about that I think can get better is Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins has seemed to only get better, and he's going to have to play his best season because he is about to get paid soon. And I don't think it's unrealistic to say he can be a top 10 to 15 defensive tackle by the end of the year. He also does play edge, but Dolphins run a 3-4. He is a defensive tackle. It's not unrealistic to see that he will. It's not unrealistic to say that he will be a top 10 to 15 defensive tackle by the end of the season. But yeah, all I'm gonna say, this position group, they're average. That's all I have to say. Average is the best way to put it. So for the final and by far the worst of the Dolphins defense, it's the linebackers. The only player that I can name off the top of my head without doing research is Jerome Baker, who is their best linebacker, but he is just average. He can be a good leader, he gets tackles, he does what a linebacker does, but he shouldn't be your best player. Melvin Ingram, the newest face, hasn't been good for 3 years. That was his only decent season recently. Andrew Van Ginkel was expected to have a breakout year, but never did. Landon Roberts, who wasn't great either. This core was weak. And I know we picked Tyndall, I think was his name, in the draft out of Georgia, and I think he can be good. Jerome Baker was a 3rd-round pick. Jeremy Tyndall can be good, but this unit is weak. And since we didn't have a 1st-round pick, we couldn't have gotten someone like, who's the guy the Jaguars drafted? Devin Lloyd. We couldn't have gotten a guy like Devin Lloyd. We couldn't have gotten an absolute stud to play at linebacker. I love getting Tyreek Hill, but linebacker really needs some help, and it will hold this defense back from unlocking its full potential. So after all this breakdown, the question stands. Are the Dolphins frauds? Well, no. I think they will win 8 to 9 games this season. They definitely could do better, but it really all depends on Tua's performance. and a lot of other players, but Tua is the biggest determiner. Tua is the biggest determiner of everything. And the Dolphins really have, their ceiling is unlimited. They can really go as high as they can go as high as they can imagine, but they can go as low as you can think. They're a really iffy team this season. So yeah, that's all I got to say about the Dolphins. Please like, subscribe, and the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.